Hi, everyone. Welcome to our live 10 questions with series during which we sit down with business leaders, founders, and entrepreneurs to hear about their journeys and the lessons they've learned along the way, of course, with the hopes of helping all of us in our journeys too. Today, I'll be chatting with Jeff Forman. He's the CEO of Can You Imagine Enterprises, an apartment and residential gift making company. Jeff will explain the genesis of the business and how they found success in this particular niche before diving into some of the challenges around it. He'll also discuss how NetSuite helped Can You Imagine overcome some of those obstacles and where he's hoping to take the business in the future. I'm excited to get into it, but before I bring Jeff on, I want to remind all of you who are tuning in right now, if you have any questions for Jeff, make sure you leave them in the comments and we'll get to them at the end of today's conversation during a live Q&A with Jeff. And if you don't have any questions, just feel free to shout out to us. Tell us where you're tuning in from. We'll shout out back to as many of you as we possibly can. Now, without further ado, please join me in welcoming the CEO of Can You Imagine Enterprises, Jeff Forman. Hi, Jeff. How are you?
Hi, Kendall. I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for joining us. I gave our viewers a brief introduction to Can You Imagine, but I'd love to hear your elevator pitch.
The business Can You Imagine has been around for 26 years. It was started by our founder, Jennifer Verdecchia. And Jennifer and her husband had been running it for 25 years, and they brought me on last year. They got started basically with her parents owned an apartment complex, and she started producing gifts for the residents there. Then she moved from that one apartment complex to another and another and another, and that's how it started.
Wow. Well, I'm excited to dive into it. So I say we get going right now with question number one. Obviously, this is a very specific niche, apartment and residential gift solution. So you just gave us a little bit of the origin of the company, but what market gap did it fill? Like, what did the founder see that made her think, there's something here that can really turn into a business?
Yeah, Kendall, that's a great question. You might think it's odd to have a gift business targeted towards the multifamily industry. But if you think about it in terms of an investment, it kind of makes sense. So what do apartment complex owners want? What they want is 100% occupancy all the time. They want to grow their rent with 100% occupancy every year on year, every year. I think of it akin to the airline industry or hotel industry, where if you have a vacancy, you're not earning money.
Right.
But in the apartment business, it's a little bit more than that. You're not earning the rent for a vacant apartment, but you're also incurring costs in terms of that foregone rent, but also repairs and cleaning. And then you also have to invest in sales and marketing in order to get a new resident back into that apartment complex. Mm-hmm. So what do? You want to make, the owners want to make the residents feel at home. The longer they stay, the higher retention you have, the higher occupancy you have, the lower cost you have on the front end. Right. So there's the industry heuristic is between $2,500 and $5,000 you're out for every apartment that goes empty, and apartment turnover is a critical issue in the industry. So there's very high costs, and for a relatively small investment in gifts, you can make your residents happier to try to stay longer and also improve your review scores online.
Yeah, so retention is really like the big key there.
It sure is.
So what is your business model and strategy, and what's uniquely challenging about it?
Yeah, well, it's an enormous market. And, I've been with this business for a year and a half now, and I'm consistently surprised about how big it is. So if you think about it, 1 in every 5 Americans lives in an apartment. So there's about 20% of America lives in an apartment. There's very little competition in this niche. In fact, the competition is really to educate folks who don't provide gifts. It's to offer an outsourced service to those property managers that do their own gifts. And then there are, there's local competition and very little national competition. So Jennifer and Drew built this company as a catalog business. You can see our catalog cover from last year behind me.
Yep.
And for the most part, with a couple of exceptions, they grew it very slowly. It's 3 to 4% per year, mailing out new catalogs, sending out some emails, and so on and so forth. So they brought me in to build a bigger sales and marketing capability and enhance the customer experience to improve our awareness in the marketplace, which I think is a huge opportunity for us. And also, we see one of our unique challenges is retention. It's not because of us, it's because of something that happens in this industry a lot, and that is these apartment complexes change hands very often between property management companies. So when let's say we have one customer who's been ordering from us for 3 years, and then the property is bought out, there's a new property manager comes in, and they had never heard of us.
Yeah.
So, we have, that's a unique challenge in this business that we're really focused on. And I think another unique challenge is, maybe it's not so unique, but we're relatively low on the priority list for property managers. Property managers are concerned with, occupancy rates, retention, events, maintenance, and repairs. Gifts is sometimes thought as as an afterthought as opposed to a strategic investment. So I think those two challenges, retention of our customers, and that priority list, elevating us on that priority list, are two key challenges that we're addressing. We're addressing it through segmentation. So we're looking at strategically at the buyers within this industry. We're trying to raise our online profile, and next year we're going to start, or actually continue, a campaign to educate property managers on the investment in gifts and what it can do for them.
That's great. We hear that a lot, actually, when it comes to customer retention in really any industry. That education point is so critical to retaining and then obviously acquiring new customers. So even though this is in a very niche market, that type of advice and that information actually kind of can be utilized across so many different industries, for sure. Now you came on, you just mentioned it earlier, you were brought on to help with some of these challenges. You came on as CEO in March of 2020. Interesting time to come on. But you have a background in financial and corporate consulting. So what did you see in Can You Imagine? What was working, and what did you help to come on and improve?
Yeah, stepping back from it, I saw an underdeveloped asset. I know the asset had been built for 26 years, but the awareness that they garnered in the industry was very extraordinarily low. I would peg I don't have hard metrics here, but I'd peg our awareness at around 2 to 3% nationally. I think it's a massive market. You have a very strong capability set here. We have a very loyal customer base. Again, the competition is more market-based as opposed to competitively based. I saw for the size of the company, I saw a very strong team with whom I could work very productively. There's a very positive work environment here, a very positive culture. There's a good brand. So I saw basically like a hidden gem. It's an underdeveloped asset, and I thought I could bring my skills to bear in terms of building a more supercharged sales and marketing capability here.
That's great. And I love that, because we talk a lot about the evolving role of the CFO and how finance and accounting teams are helping lead more decision-making discussions now than really ever before. And we've been seeing this over the past couple of years, but 2020 and everything that came with it really escalated that. So given your own background, what role do you see the CFO playing in today's discussion? And maybe not just the CFO. What role do you see CFO, accounting, and finance teams playing in some of these big decisions?
Super important for small, medium-sized businesses. Super important. Because cash is vital. With greater cash flow, you have more leeway for investments. You can take bigger risks. So I work with our finance team on the front end in terms of pricing and value proposition management, and then on the back end on procurement and cost control. So we can kind of maintain or maybe even grow margins. But it really comes back to cash. We have so many different opportunities of where we can put our money. Do we put our money into expanding warehouse space? Do we put it into more human capital? Do we invest in technology? And we did.
Yeah.
But the question, and do we do sales and marketing? Innovative sales and marketing ideas. So we have a lot of opportunities here, and we have to make very wise choices. In a small, medium-sized business. So the CFO and the finance team, we partner. Well, they're a critical member of our team. They help us make the hard choices that we need to make for the business.
You mentioned technology. I'm curious, how has technology played a role in kind of this evolution of CFO, finance, and accounting teams becoming, a really big part of these discussions?
Yeah, I mean, for us, it's absolutely critical. As I look into the future, we couldn't scale with what we were living with. So it really gets back to cost-efficient growth is what I would call it. So, for example, our legacy system couldn't integrate web orders. So, our customer service team has a very manual process to receive emails from Magento and type them into the system, and so on and so forth, as opposed to just those orders just appearing in operations for them to start fulfilling. She has to spend the time. That's what it really gets back to. That's one of the themes here, is that the technology frees up time because you're eliminating manual activities. So we see it as a very important investment for our future growth. And if we're gonna have outpaced growth, which we have seen in the past year and a half, we're gonna need a better platform so that we can eliminate those manual processes and start automating those things.
Yeah, that's a great segue to question number 6 here, which you implemented NetSuite earlier this year, but what you mentioned Magento, what was Can You Imagine running on prior to implementing NetSuite? And aside from some of that kind of order fulfillment stuff, what challenges was this presenting? What other manual processes was the team doing day in and day out?
Yeah, so for, I think it was 12 or 13 years, the business was on a QuickBooks Manufacturing Edition. It wasn't in the cloud. It was on the QuickBooks Manufacturing platform. It's ostensibly an accounting system that the business here used as everything, as an ERP system. And I kind of think of it as this. You move into a new apartment, you move into a new house, and you've got this closet space, and the closets are empty, and you're like, oh wow, I got some closets here, I can fill them up. Then 12 years later, you're afraid to open the closet door because you might have bodily harm from flying out of it. So that's what they did to the system. They made it work for them, but it wasn't a platform for efficient growth, and it wasn't a platform for to glean any intelligence, to conduct any analytics. We had all these manual tasks that from the front end to the back end production could be entirely eliminated with a better platform. Reporting and insight generation, it was just a very clunky system.
I love that analogy. We've never heard that one, where you move into a new, maybe it's because you're in that industry, but you move into a new place and you have this wonderful, I'll call it the hallway closet. You just keep shoving stuff in there, and then all of a sudden it gets 12 years down the line. You're like, what is in the back of this closet? I know it
Exactly.
too well. So I love that. That's a great analogy. What are some of the hidden costs associated with piling systems upon systems like that? And really kind of even just the addition of manual processes, what are some of the hidden costs that businesses who are maybe just starting out right now but are on the path and have the growth trajectory, for the future, what are some hidden costs that they wouldn't know about right now?
Yeah, I mean, I'll preface it by saying we're super happy that we moved to NetSuite. But, I think there were probably a few things. One was the customization. So we went for a cost-efficient implementation, which essentially is out of the box. Now we had to do some customization, obviously, to make NetSuite fit our business. So we upgraded to the assemblies module for warehousing and distribution, and we did a whole bunch of other things that were a little bit customized. But that was something that we didn't realize, I think, fully going in, was the degree of customization that we were going to need for our business. And I think like a lot of things, there's a learning curve, and you might know that going in, that there's going to be a learning curve, and then you are in the learning curve, and then everybody gets frustrated.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, as much as I could say, hey, you just got to be patient. We're just going to work with the system, and we're going to grow with it. Essentially everybody's here is forced to adopt it. So adoption isn't an issue. It's adopting it in an effective manner. So training was something that we underappreciated. I think one other thing that I think we're going to be looking forward to, that's going to help us in production with our gift makers, is automating our production processes, and NetSuite is going to allow us to do that. QuickBooks Manufacturing could never do it, and that's an additional cost in terms of storage capacity for us, because we have a lot of different gifts, and we have to basically print out a sheet. It's called a design sheet, where it shows what the gift looks like, and it gives instructions on how to build the gift. So if we had that all in the cloud, we could have all of our gift makers have tablets. They can access the design sheets at a moment's notice. If we update it, it updates across all the platforms. And that's something we're totally looking forward to doing. Again, we could never have done that with our legacy system.
And what about for inventory management? I mean, like you said, you have a lot of different products that all fit together in different ways. So how will NetSuite help you in that realm, and or how has it, and how will it in the future?
Yeah, it's definitely going to, because it has capabilities that we didn't have before. So when I think of inventory, I think of procurement. So we're going to have basically like a replenishment system where our buyers are going to be alerted when we're cutting into our safety stock. We have a lot of items, and we have a lot of SKUs for our business, and ordering is a task. And in QuickBooks, we did not have any sort of flag that said, hey, you're running low on this. But with NetSuite, that is totally going to be completely automated. And then in operations, we're going to automate for example, our web orders are going to flow right through to operations. She's going to be able to, our operations director is going to be able to build those gifts in the system very efficiently, much more efficiently than before. And then with tablets, I mean, we can print a pick list and let the gift makers go do their thing.
Yeah, that's great. And I want to refer back to some of the unique challenges you mentioned earlier around, retention and awareness, and really becoming more of a priority for your specific customer. And obviously, when you implement a new system like NetSuite, you do it to help, the business on the back end and help your teams become more efficient. But in the long run, it's to benefit your customer, right? So
Absolutely.
how will all of this, the automation, kind of some of the elimination of the manual processes that you're talking about, how will this help address those challenges of retention, awareness, becoming more priority for your customers in the future?
Yeah. So in terms of retention, and I don't think we've explored all the capabilities of what NetSuite can bring right now. But what we do know is that we're automating our current customer marketing program. So that we basically had an accounting system doing that before, and now we have a very efficient, scalable, cloud-based system that gives alerts to our customer service team about when to call whom, right?
Great.
So that whole customer loyalty, customer retention, customer experience side is very, very important to us. By doing that kind of calling plan, we're able to update the system very, very quickly if there's a change in ownership or a change in the property manager. And we're getting a lot better at that, and it's just seemingly it's a lot easier with the CRM capabilities of NetSuite than it was with bastardized accounting system.
Yeah, for sure. That's great. Coming up on question number 10 here. Before we get to it, I want to remind everybody that is tuning in right now to send us a question if you have any questions. We're going to get into a little live Q&A right after this last question for Jeff here. So Jeff, question number 10, how have you navigated supply chain interruptions over the past year and a half? As we said earlier, you came in March of 2020, which is like, when we all think back to March of 2020, it's like, oh my gosh, it's a crazy time to start in a new role, in a completely new realm for you. So curious how you dealt with some of the supply chain interruptions you faced. Obviously, you have gifts coming in from all different suppliers and vendors that you work with. So walk us through that.
So it's a daily firefight still. We're still in a super reactive mode to this supply environment, and we're building gifts. We have to, if we're out of something because we can't get it, we literally can't get it, we go to a substitute for it, and then the sub runs out. So we're like 3 substitutes down for some of our items, and it's a daily firefight that we go through in this environment. And it's like the weirdest things. Our number one item, go figure, in the COVID environment is stemless wine glasses. And, it's been so challenging that the supply, the timing of supply is extended, and our vendors are very slow to respond with our top item. And then there's weird things like picture hanging kits and, cheese we include in some of these gifts, and Nutella. It's just, it's a daily constant fight. So right now we're super reactive. Now we work, we're American produced, and we work with American wholesalers. And I think once we get through this, we're going to look a little bit more strategically about our supply environment, potentially diversify our sources, and potentially even go direct on some items that we believe are critical to our business. So we're going to start looking at this differently, but still, it is a daily, literally hour by hour fight for supply. And I guess like the positive thing about this is that everybody's experiencing it. So when I talk to our customers, I kind of talk to them a little bit apologetically, like, well, we're kind of running slow on this particular item, on wine glasses, and they're like, oh yeah, we totally understand. Our customers have been so cool about it, because I think they experience it as well every day. But it's a super challenge, and I want to get ahead of it as soon as we can.
Yeah, I mean, you any person, any customer, any business leader that I've talked to is saying the exact same things that you're saying right now. And that customer transparency is so key. That is a big, big lesson, and something that we're hearing across the board. Doesn't matter what industry you're in, just transparency with customers is so critical to getting through these times, especially when you're low on inventory or you can't fulfill orders. So again, another lesson, not just for gift giving and, but across the board in general. So
we can commiserate. We can commiserate.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Exactly. So we have a couple comments coming in, but I want to remind everybody who's tuning in right now, if you have any questions for Jeff, keep them coming in right now. I'm going to get to a couple that just came through and a couple shout outs. We have Emmanuel from Nigeria shouting out. Hi, Emmanuel. We have Ren. Hi from Los Angeles. Love the focus on customer experience, especially as a fellow apartment renter. Love that. Thank you for the comments. Thanks for the shout outs. Keep them coming. And then we have another question coming in here right now from Steve. This is a good one. Why the name Can You Imagine?
Yeah. So when Jennifer started the business, she created gifts in empty paint cans. So she decorated the outside of paint cans. She put the items inside the paint can, and then she packed them up and shipped them out. Wow. Yeah, it's because of the paint cans. She said, so can, and then she just said, can you imagine? And it just stuck.
Love it. We have another question coming in here from Patricia out of Fairmont. She is asking, how are you preparing for the 2021 holiday season? That is a hot topic right now. We're covering that on a lot of our different channels here at NetSuite. Would love to hear what you guys are doing, Jeff.
Yeah, that's a really good question. It's something that we've been talking about for months now, and it's obviously beginning right now. So when we think of holidays in our business, we think of holidays throughout the year. However, last year we beefed up our November, December holiday offering, and I think we had the best holiday season that our business has ever had. We're very cyclical. Most people move. Most of our customers buy for welcome gifts, and most people move in the summer. So it's we have a little bit of a cyclicality that we wanted to offset, and we did that. So this year, we're doing a couple, maybe something a little bit different in that we have certain gifts, certain items that we sold during the holiday season that were extraordinarily popular. That when they sold out, we had one thing that sold out in a day.
What was it?
It's a holiday snowman. It's in glasses, tiered glasses with hot chocolate. So there's, it's cool. It's cool. So what we're doing is we're doing pre-orders now, like right now, for some of our hot selling items. So we know, how much to buy because we're going to have a lot of demand for certain items. So and getting the word out to our customers from our marketing channels. That's what we're doing. We have. Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, you said you were being reactive earlier, but it sounds like this you're being very proactive in this circumstances, looking into the holiday season.
Yeah, right, absolutely. In this particular case, we're being very proactive about making sure our customers have the gifts from us that they want. So I want to run out of supply.
All right, another question coming in here. Oh, I like this one. This one is from Allison. What's the secret to successfully entering a new industry like you did as a CEO?
You mean new entering?
I think because we mentioned your financial background, so you entered a whole new world, kind of in this gift giving realm. So what's the secret to doing that successfully?
Years of experience and a lot of hard work. From me personally, if that's a question, as a consultant, I did this. I wasn't an industry focused consultant. I was more of a functional expert. And, I've worked with many industries over the years, and it's a learning curve like anything else. And, this was exactly the same as that. It was just a learning curve. Talk to as many people as you possibly can. Network as much as you possibly can. It was very, very difficult last year because I couldn't meet with anyone in person, which was tough. But yeah, read as much as you can, study as much as you can, talk as much as you can, because that's only going to serve to get you up the learning curve. You will eventually get up the learning curve, but you have to do it sooner rather than later.
Yeah.
So I wanted to know things like, well, who is my customer?
Right.
A property manager, right? If you think two-dimensionally, you could say, oh, the individual property managers, but these property managers, a lot of them work with these very, very large property management companies. Mm-hmm. So you have their bosses and their bosses and their bosses all the way up to the C-suite. Right. So, who's your customer? And then does the value proposition of your offering resonate with the needs and priorities of that target customer?
Yeah, absolutely. That's
great.
That
was the first thing that I needed to understand.
Yeah, customers first. And again, in any industry, it doesn't matter, what you're in. You gotta figure out where your customer sits, who they are, what they want, what they need. We have some more questions coming in here from the audience from Alessandra. You mentioned your company being a hidden gem. What growth are you hoping to achieve?
Yeah, good question. Again, it's been a weird year and a half. So, we adapted very well last year, and we grew at double digits last year from the time I came on board. This year, I think we probably overestimated what our growth rate was going to be, but we're still close to double digits, and well north of where the company historically operated in. But how and why? So for us, it's the market environment and our awareness. The awareness of this business is a key issue. Or an opportunity, I would say, not an issue. The more we can spread the word about who we are, we're going to convert a certain percentage of those. And because we've done that, historical growth rates at 3 or 4%, because we do a lot more outreach now, because we're building a sales capability to leverage the extraordinary platform that we have here, we've incrementally added on top of those historical growth rates. The question is, where does it wind up? I think we probably, we did pretty well last year. We probably overshot this year because we're running under our target, but we're still close to double digits.
Wow. Good info. Good insight there. We have one question here to wrap things up, and it is from Alan, and I really enjoy this question. If you could give a puppy as a gift, what kind of puppy would it be?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. I mean, do I know who the target customer is?
There you go.
Do I know what their needs and priorities are? Do they need a small dog for an apartment, or do they really, really like big dogs? Are there amenities and facilities available in the apartment complex or at least nearby? I would need to know a little bit more about the person before
you answer that.
I can commit to something. I'm not gonna, if someone kind of randomly comes up to me, buy me a dog, and I buy them a Saint Bernard, they might be a little upset about that.
Exactly. That's a great answer. And with that, Jeff, thank you so much. This was super insightful, super great to chat with you, and we really appreciate you taking the time.
Thank you very much, Kendall. Appreciate it.
And as always, a big thanks to all of you for tuning in and for participating. Those were some great questions thrown in there, Alan. We love a puppy question. So keep them coming. Keep joining us for these. We've moved this series to bi-weekly. If you didn't know, now you know. So we will be back here in 2 weeks on Thursday, September 23rd with the founder and the CEO of Micro Power Design. That's happening at 11 a.m. Pacific, again on Thursday, September 23rd. We will see you there. Bye.